My twin sister, my precious sister, she starts to mock me. You might ask why she's mocking me. Well, guys, she stole my husband. That's right, she took him. And I'm going to explain to you the amount of revenge I've been craving for, and I'm going to get it. I just found out that my husband's a cheater. Keeping secrets is destroying my marriage. Keeping secrets has completely destroyed my marriage. I cannot help but think that if I did not have any secrets, then I would not have grown so distant. Maybe my husband would have not gotten comfort in another's arms. However, who can blame him when she was so irresistible? I always thought my marriage was solid and he would never step out of the marriage. I just had no idea that my competition was so close. Well, they lied and cheated behind my back for such a long time, and I did not notice. No one ever noticed, and as far as anybody was concerned, he was a loyal husband. I thought it was true until I found myself in two places at once. It was a Thursday evening, and I had just gotten off work. The next day was a public holiday, so I decided to relax. I called a few friends and we arranged to go bowling since we had not seen each other in some time. Once everybody arrived, we started the game. As we were minding our own business in bowling, a lady came up to me and hugged me, and I was startled as I've never seen her in my life before. She asked if I did not remember her. We met the day before the resort, and I asked what she meant because I was at work. Well, she told me that it's funny I never mentioned that I stayed here. I said I stayed in another state, and I told her that she was most likely confusing me with somebody else, and I was sorry for that. She laughed and said of course not. She knew that my name was Anita. She then took out her phone and showed me a picture of us. I checked the info of the picture and sure enough it was yesterday. She told me that she met me and my husband just the day before and we had become friends. I asked which resort it was. The resort she mentioned is one that my husband and I visit every often, once in a while. My mind was spinning as I wondered how she even met yesterday and why she knew my name. The only logical explanation I could come up with was bizarre. First, I showed her a picture of myself and my sister, and I told her that, she had seen my sister, who must have been there with her boyfriend, not her husband. Maybe she lied that they were married so that it would be easier to be friends with this lady. I don't know. I then showed her a picture of my sister and her boyfriend and asked if that was the man that she said, and she said no. So then I showed her my wallpaper, which was of me and my husband, and asked the dreaded question. Well, she nodded and said yes, and that was the man she was with, and I could no longer bowl after that. I could not even think. I asked her to send me all the pictures that she had before she left, and I then went home and called my husband to ask how the work conference was going. I asked him where it was being held, and he told me a different location to the one that they were at. I also called my sister and asked her if she and her boyfriend would like to join us for dinner sometime. I asked if she was still dating the same guy, and she said yes. She still was. So I got my confirmation that my husband and my twin sister were lying to me and cheating on me. It was funny, we looked the same but had different personalities. Was he really that bored with me and losing interest? I know that I've been busy with work and other things, but that was not an excuse. If we had issues, then he had to tell me and not run to her. I was oddly very calm when I got back home. I packed all my clothing, appliances, and everything that belonged to me and had to put it in storage. I then looked for a motel to stay in for the next couple of days. Throughout that time, I was talking to him and pretending that everything was okay. Little did he know that he was about to come home to my ring on the beside table, along with a note that read, "She might look like me, but she's not me." Monday came and he came back from his work conference. He called me and asked if we could speak, and I told him if we could meet at a neutral location, sure. He told me a sob story of how he was innocent and she tempted him. He told me that he never wanted to hurt me, like every cheater says. He tried to justify his lies, and I told him that I did not want those explanations. I was done. He hurt me with the person I loved the most, my sister. He must have told her that I knew because I got from a missed call. I called her and she apologized. I was not having any of it, so she became defensive and tried to blame the whole thing on me. I told her that she could have him if she wanted. I wanted nothing to do with him. The news spread that my sister had stolen my husband. It was a difficult time for me, and I kept my head down and did not say anything. They, on the other hand, decided to go public with their relationship. I guess that they were tired of acting like they were sorry. My mother tried to reprimand my sister, to no avail. My mom is too soft-spoken, and my sister can be harsh to her. She said some very unnecessary things to Mom, insulting her. And when I heard about it, I had to send her a stern message telling her not to mess with my mom. She responded and said that I was a loser and I was dumb. And she said that she was now going to live the life that I took for granted and there was nothing that I could do about it. She also claimed that she seduced him on purpose because she too wanted to live the good life. I told her to enjoy it, but not all that's glitter is gold. While I used to love my husband and he was a good man, there were a couple of skeletons in his closet, especially when it came to his family. However, it's not my place to tell her. She'll have to discover them herself, and I hope she does not come crying to me when things turn out to be bad. I told her that the bond that we used to have was broken, and I lost all respect for her. She told me that she did not need respect. She had all that she wanted. I let her know that she could try to be me all she wanted, but she could never replace me. So she sent me a voice message, laughing and saying that I better be kind to her because she's the one who's going to be deciding how much I get for alimony. She's so lost in her world and really thinks that she can control Donovan. I too used to think that, but that rich jerk is still the same. He never changed, he's just having a good way of hiding who he is now. His mask might remain intact, and he thinks that he's gotten away with it. He thinks that I'm scared of him and his family. He thinks that I fear their lawyers when, well, what little does he know that I pity them. They're all soulless, they treat it like a transaction, and I just accepted that about his family a long time ago. I accepted that small part that he got from his dad a long time ago, and I just thought that the life we shared together would have been enough to make him hide that part of him. Now he is her problem. I'm done with this. I'll not be one of those people who forgive cheaters over and over again, while they themselves die a little death every time that they get cheated on. I guess I should set up a meeting with my lawyer so that I can get out of this as soon as possible. Updates. Number 1. I've just had a meeting with my husband's father. He wants to oppose the divorce because I knew too much and I'm too valuable to let go. He proposed something to me. He thinks that it'll be the best way to handle this, and I'm sure if I should just feel insulted or flattered that he thinks that I'm that important. He asked to see me a couple days and I agreed. I figured that he knew what his son had done. He told me that his son was an idiot, much like he had been at that age. He told me that he's made a lot of mistakes and is afraid that his son is making them too. He told me that the thing he regretted the most was getting married so many times and not letting his son have a stable childhood. I told him that did not give Donovan the right to cheat on me with my sister, somebody that I shared the womb and everything with for 28 years. He told me that I was right, however. I could not leave him. He told me that my sister was not right for him, so she enabled him in bad habits. He picked up smoking and drinking again, and made him irresponsible, and he could not have an irresponsible heir. He told me that he needed to be Don's moral compass to make him see reason and focus once again. He was afraid that if he did not, then he could not leave everything to Don. So then I asked him if it would force him to have to seek out his first son. His face turned grave. That was the secret that we have been keeping from Don for years. I was never supposed to know about it, however, I stumbled across the birth certificate and investigated. The truth is that my father-in-law has an older son who is illegitimate and does not know about him. His mom hid him from my father-in-law for years, but he found him. He and Don do not know about each other, and I agreed not to say a word. The secret's been eating me up, though. It's such a relief to let it out, and I am not the only person who knows about it. Now I'll sleep a bit better. But that is, the secret that could ruin the family reputation, the entire dynamic, etc., and I would not want to do that because it's simply not my place. So, what was his proposal he had for me? He asked me to stay legally married to Don and to have a child with him. He told me that he would force Don to hide his relationship with my sister, and all I had to do was stay for 5 years. Then I could leave. He would get me a house, a car, and enough money to take care of myself. It was important that Don at least had some kids so that their legacy could be passed on. He told me that I did not have to decide right then and there, of course. I could take my time and then let him know what I've decided. He said that he knew that I was angry, but I also loved Donovan. All I've ever done for Don has resulted in his happiness. He says that was why he allowed Don to marry me, even though I did not come from a rich family. The fact that I'm smart and will always look out for the happiness of his family, but what about my happiness, I wondered. Have they looked after my happiness, and should I even trust them to? Update number 2. A month later. It's been a month since I moved out of the house. I've been avoiding my father-in-law, and he keeps on asking me to do it. I'm not sure that I want to be used like that. I have so many years of my life left, I could find somebody else and be happy. Of course I love Don. I've married him for a reason. I never saw a future without him, but now I must. And with all that's been happening lately, maybe it's best for me to just disappear. I saw them a couple days ago. They were at my and Don's favorite restaurant. When I passed by their table, I greeted them, and I heard my sister say under her breath that I look like death itself. I turned around and asked her to say that again. I let her know that one word from her and she would lose all this. She should not get too comfortable around him because I'm the one who's married to him for 4 years. He, on the other hand, could not even look at me. She said his name in an exasperated manner, and he told me to just leave them alone. I asked him if he was really sure that he wanted me to leave. I looked into his eyes, and I could tell that he was not certain. I laughed and went to my table where I had my meal. Afterward, I decided to head home. As I was by the door, I heard them talking and laughing, so I rolled my eyes, already annoyed, and hoped that they would not see me. As I was rolling my eyes, I got very dizzy, and the next thing I knew, I was down. I heard somebody running towards me, and then my sister's voice. She told him that he could call the ambulance, but he was not to go with me. I woke up alone, and I asked the nurse if he had been called, and they said that he did not answer the phone. The doctor then came to tell me what was going on with me. The good news was that I was pregnant. By some miracle, I was not even showing, but I was 3 months pregnant. He told me that I needed to get some bed rest and take care of myself, and then sent me home. I decided to tell him that I was pregnant. So I went to his house, sat down with him, and told him, and he told me that he would have to find a way to work out the custody and the divorce. I agreed and said that I wanted to co-parent and put everything aside. I felt less stressed and optimistic. It was not ideal, but at least my baby would have both parents. Later that night, I got a message from him. He told me that my bringing a baby into their lives was going to complicate the relationship. They needed me to back away. Maybe even, get rid of the baby, because they did not have space for another person in their lives. I recognized that tone. Of course it was her. She was the one putting those words into his mouth, and just a couple hours ago, he was willing to accept the baby, but now he was not. This was all types of fishy. I thought of my options. I could do this alone, be a single mother, and take care of my baby. I could also get rid of the baby and move on with my life. Or I could simply tell my father-in-law. This fits in perfectly with his plan, and if anybody could convince Don to take me back, it would be him. I would then be stuck in a loveless marriage for 5 years, but at least my baby would have some sort of support system. And I would get back at AITA, who was on top of the world after stealing my husband. She would not get that title of wife, not for 5 years. I know how she can be when she does not get what she wants. She'll go insane, knowing that this is the best-kept secret. For I know that she wants the status and wealth that can come with being with him. Now I wonder if she will be with him if he did not have all that. I do not think that she would have stolen him if he was just a regular guy. I know how the mind works. She's a conniving little person, and she wants the money and the status that I once had. Maybe I should make sure that she does not get that. He'll see that she'll drop him faster than a hot potato. As I sit here, I'm suddenly angered by the audacity those two have had to betray me like that. I was too nice to them. I should have made sure that they paid dearly for what they did because I was too calm, composed, and I was a pushover. He did not even get into the ambulance with me when I collapsed because of her. That's not fair. I'm not a weakling like they make me out to be. A plan is already brewing in my head, something that they will not see coming. This is for my baby who they just rejected. They will regret doing that. Mark my words. Update number 3, 4 months later. Hey guys, what do you call a person who steals their sister's husband hoping that they'll become rich overnight? A fool. A fool is what you call it, and I've just proven that to the entire world. See, she said that she would be paying my alimony, but now she's going to be wanting to get donations from me. As for my ex-husband, he has chest pains wherever he is. I've just come back to town, and it's a perfect timing as well. It's barely been a month since my divorce got finalized, but I heard from a little birdie that my twin sister was getting married. I decided to invite myself. After all, I had every right to be there. I made sure to arrive way after they said their vows, for my intention was not to stop the wedding. My intention was to tell them that all was forgiven, and I wanted to peace and move on. When Anaya saw me, she tried to call out security, but Mom told her to hear me out. I told her that it was not me here to stop the wedding, but to give them my blessing and tell them that I would not bother them again. They were a bit skeptical in the beginning, as I can imagine anybody would be, but once I gave them their gift and sat quietly in the corner, they relaxed. I waited for the perfect moment for me to really reveal why I was there, and it would be perfect. I got the chance when my former father-in-law invited the whole family to his hotel room. He said that he had something very important to tell us. He told us his son that he was going to give him some money to start a company, and he wanted him to work hard for himself and prove that he was worthy of being his son. Don was overwhelmed and thanked his father. His dad then said that it was the least that he could do, so that he would have a fresh start since he was no longer going to be the head of the company. I heard my sister let out a bit of a scream behind me. The wind had just been knocked out of her, and it was not even the beginning of it all. It was going to be a long night. I just watched from my chair as it all unfolded. Don asked who the leader of the company was going to be, and his father looked at me. Don lost it. He was in front of my face screaming within a moment. He screamed that his father could not do this to him. I was but an outsider. His father laughed and said that I was not going to be the leader of the company, but my fiancé was going to be. Don asked who was that, and I excused myself for a moment to go and fetch him. I returned with him behind me, and everybody had a look of surprise on their face. You could not deny the uncanny resemblance to Donovan and his dad. They were all cut from the same cloth, and on the outside at least, but on the inside he was a lot different from all of them. This is why I agreed to marry him, and I'm just willing to spend my life with him. The second reason is that I want Don to suffer and watch as someone else raises his son and grows his father's company. I briefly told them that this was the oldest son of the family, Enrico, and he was going to take over everything because his father was retiring. He agreed to take on this role several months ago and has been preparing. The next thing I know, Don was charging for Enrico. I could see murder in his eyes, so then I stuck out my foot as he was nearing me, and he kissed the floor. My father-in-law gave me a look, and I just shrugged. I was not about to let my fiancé be beaten up over such a lowlife. Father-in-law told everybody to get out of the room, and he needed to speak to his sons. We obliged and went to another room where my sister bombarded me with questions. I told her that Enrico was the oldest, though he was illegitimate, and had the right to lead the company. Not only that, but he was one of the youngest executives at his old company. Apparently, he made history there, and now his father needed him to take over. I told her that all of her husband's wealth and inheritance was going to go to Enrico, who had proven beyond reasonable doubt that he could do what needed to be done for the family. So, here I was with the richest brother, and this time he owned everything. I told Anaya that Don never had anything set in stone, and all that he claimed to have belonged to his father, and his father was now going to take it away and give it to Enrico. Well, I was going to get married to Enrico, and we would raise their heirs to the family. She turned pale, and when I spoke about the baby and asked me if I kept it, I said yes, of course I kept it. But she said that she could not see, and I told her that it was the dress I was wearing. I did not want to reveal to people too soon that I was pregnant. She laughed and said I was clearly out of my mind to think that the man would raise my child when he could have his own. I laughed and told her to better respect me now because I was her older sister-in-law and my word was law. I'm, after all, carrying the future of his family. She just laughed and said that she would just get pregnant, but I told her that I was the one getting married to the heir, and it would not change a thing. She was to remain a pauper, and her game had failed. Then she pushed me on the bed, jumped on top of me, and started hitting me. I managed to fight her off, and I screamed for help. The look in her eyes was murderous. She seemed to be saying that there was only space for her there. Seems like I underestimated how far my sister was willing to go for money and power. If she could betray me, surely she could end me. Update number 4, a few months later. It's been a very eventful couple of months. I survived my sister's attack, but had to be rushed to the hospital due to a spike in my blood pressure. I told Enrico to get a restraining order against her, and warned her that if she touched me again, she would face jail time. In his protective nature, he seemed to issue a strong warning because, after that, she stayed far away from me. Her bitterness, on the other hand, could be felt when she entered a room. It only increased as the months wore on, and it became clear that Don's business was a failure. While Enrico was taking to the company to new heights and making a name for himself, it became apparent that I had made the right choice for my company when I went after him. When he met, he found me peculiar and thought that I was lying, but I told him to do a DNA test. We got my father-in-law to fly down and do them, and it was proven that he was indeed his son, but he did not want to leave his life. He was happy where he was. My father-in-law gave up, but I did not. I got an apartment close to him and befriended him. At first, he wanted nothing to do with me, but my charm was too much, and we became friends. I told him about his brother and what he did to me, and he was horrified. I told him that I needed him to take everything away from him, and that would be the only thing that would heal my pain. He thought about it for a while and then decided that he would quit his job and take on the role. Well, but he needed to know about the company. Who better to teach him than yours truly? I know the inner workings of that company like the back of my hand, and my father-in-law often consults me for advice. I taught him everything he needed to know, and in exchange, he took care of me. He took me to the doctor's appointments, attended all my cravings, and went to all my classes with me. I grew to like him even more. He was nice, unpretentious, and respected me, which was something that I did not receive from Don sometimes. When he asked me to marry him and raise the child with him, I said yes immediately. Of course, I knew that his father proposed that, but I didn't mind. I know him. He'll make a good father. We did get married a while ago. It was a court wedding, nothing fancy. My sister and her husband had something to say, of course, but we don't care. We're not the losers in the story. Final updates. Boy, do I have juicy news for you. Well, what I predicted would happen happened. Donovan's company has been declared bankrupt and it's barely been 6 months. Wow. Turns out that they've been struggling financially and selling their things so that they have money to survive, but now they're dead broke. Wow. And it's time for them to beg us for help. He's put all of his pride aside and asked me to tell Enrico to give him a job. His father said that he could not help him because he transferred everything to Enrico. I spoke to my husband about it, and he's been kind enough to offer him an interview. In other words, my sister has jumped ship at the first sign of trouble. She did not even wait for the man to make a plan. She decided that she was out of there. I'm sure that she's going to trap another person again. Well, but not in this town because everyone knows that she was married. My mother said she asked for some money from her, but she did not give her. She reminded her of all the things that she said to Mom those months ago. She said she would not help somebody who insults her like that, so she's all alone at the bottom now. How the mighty have fallen. And I'm just sated. You have no idea how happy it makes me to know that they have nothing after all the pain and suffering that they've caused me. Well, as for me, I have a newborn, a husband who adores me and a comfortable life. Sure, we might not be in love, but we respect each other. We both have mutual goals, which is to raise this baby and this company. One day, it'll all belong to my little Tristan. I'll make sure that he grows up in a loving household and he knows he's loved every day. I'll make sure that he treats people well and never has to know what a loser his biological father is. This makes me think that maybe Enrico gave, well, Don a job far away so that he's nowhere near our family. I don't trust him, and I don't want his bad energy anywhere near me. It's funny. All of this started with a twin and a stolen identity, but now I'm in a better place. Life does indeed work in mysterious ways. You just have to go with the flow and accept it sometimes. I mean, this story was absolutely insane. The fact that OP just knew this devastating family secret and she actually tracked down the brother, basically seduced him, and just went after him for the one thought of revenge. And I just can't seem to wrap my head around this crazy, bizarre situation that we found ourselves in. If you guys know what you would have done, let me know your thoughts in the comment section, because I think the comments of the original post were absolutely wild. Nobody was agreeing with each other, everybody was arguing, so yeah, I know this story was a lot to take in, but if you were in OP's position, what would you do? My name's Mr. Reddito, and I narrate stories every day. Thank you for joining me. I hope to see you tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.